boys and girls. My name is Latina Gayden. I teach third grade math at Roy Neal Sheldon Elementary School. Today we're going to do Module 1, Lesson 3, okay? And we're still talking about the beginning of multiplication and division, so let's jump right in. All right, you guys, let's look at our objective. Now, remember, I told you the objective tells us what we're supposed to do each day, what we're supposed to learn. So remember, this is the most important thing. You never want to leave out a classroom and wonder, what was I supposed to learn today? So you need to know your objective every day. Never leave out the classroom without knowing your objective, okay? So let's look at what we want to learn today. That's why we have a target here, because that's our target. That's what we want to do. I can interpret the meaning of factors, the size of the group or the number of groups. Okay, so when we're talking about interpreting the meaning, that means that when we write a multiplication sentence, we know what each one of the numbers mean. Because we're not just writing numbers to write numbers, each one of those numbers means something. And I've said them in passing, but today I'm going to really dig in deep to tell you what each number means in a multiplication equation, okay? Let's start with some group counting, you guys. Let's count by twos first. Now, remember, I told you there is a link between skip counting and multiplying. So, if you can skip count, you can multiply. Now, when we count by twos, when we're counting up, we're thinking about adding to every time. And when we're counting down, we're talking about subtracting to every time. So, kind of keep that in your head as we're going. And if you don't know how to count by your twos, let's go. We're going to go forward and backwards by two. Let's use our fingers to track, all right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Very good. Let's count backwards. 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Very good, boys and girls. Let's do some group counting by threes. Now, remember, when we're counting by threes, when we're counting up, we're adding three. And when we're counting back, we're subtracting three each time, all right? So think about that if you get a little confused on your numbers, all right? So let's do threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Let's count backwards. Remember subtracting 3 each time, all right? 30, 27, 24, 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3. All right, you guys, let's add to multiply. So this is getting back into lesson 1. In lesson 1, we learned that there's a relationship between repeated addition and multiplication. So let's go over that. Let's see if we remember things. All right. How many groups are circled, you guys? We have 3 groups. That's correct. How many are there in each group? Remember, that's when we're talking about the size of the group. I want to know how many red circles are in each, not the total. How many are in each group? There are 5. That's correct. Let's write this as an addition sentence. What kind of addition sentence will we have to use to find the answer to this problem? We will have to use a repeated addition, okay? That means we're going to add the same number to see the total number of objects in the picture, all right? So we know that the size of the group is 5. So we said 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals what? Let's count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. Now, let's write a multiplication sentence representing 3 5s equals 15. So, how many groups do we have? We have 3 groups. What's the size of each group? 5. So 3 times 5 equals application problem today. Now, remember we're going to use RDW. What does RDW stand for? That's correct. Read, draw, write. So let's start with the reading part, all right? Robbie sees that a carton of eggs shows an array with 2 rows of 6 eggs. What is the total number of eggs in the carton? Use the RDW process to show your solution. All right, you guys, so let's visualize real quick. So he sees a carton of eggs, and you've seen a carton of eggs before, and he said it's in an array. What did I tell you an array was yesterday? An array is a set of rows and columns, okay? So let's see what he saw when he looked at his array. He saw 2 rows with 6 eggs. So you guys, that brings me to my drawing part. Now, I know I love a good tape diagram, but since it says that he saw an array, then I'm going to draw an array, okay? So let's do that. So how many rows do we need? We need 2 rows, and how many are on each row? 6 are on each row. So I'm going to draw 1 row of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, that's 1 row. Now I need to draw my second row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you guys, we have 2 rows of 6. Now, I can now use this array to write a multiplication sentence because that's what we did yesterday, didn't we? We related arrays to multiplication. So let's do what we did yesterday for today. So yesterday I taught you that when you look in an array, all you have to do is say that the row is the number of groups and how many are on each row is the size of the group. So first you have to know what a row is. Show me rows. This is a row, okay? Row is horizontal, and what is a column? Column is vertical, all right? So we have 2 rows, so we have the number of groups is 2. And what's the size of each group? How many are on each row? 6. Now we can skip count to find the total number, you guys. So how many are on my first row? 6. And if I add another row of 6, how many would that be? 6 plus 6. That's correct, it's 12. So 2 times 6 equals 12. So now let's look at our question. What is the total number of eggs in the carton? There are how many eggs, guys? There are 12 eggs in the carton. All right. Now, boys and girls, let's go back to our objective. Our objective tells us what we're supposed to learn today. Now, remember, I told you our objective today was to know the meaning of the factors. And when we're talking about factors, we're talking about the numbers that we're multiplying together to get our answer. So let's look at this equation here. So we have 2 times 8. 2 and 8 are our factors, okay? So those are the numbers we're multiplying together to get an answer. So we want to use this multiplication equation to draw an array. Now, we need to know what each number means. Do you remember the formula I taught you on day 1? So the formula was the number of groups times the size of the group. So actually today what I'm doing is I'm working backwards. Yesterday we used the array to make a multiplication sentence, but today I'm using the multiplication sentence to make an array. And the only way that I can do that is if I understand what each factor means, because these are not just random numbers. That 2 has a meaning and that 8 has a meaning, and when we find the total, it has a meaning also, okay? So when we look at this, the first number is the number of groups, okay? So when we look at this multiplication sentence, how many groups do we have? We have 2 groups. Now, the second number is the size of the groups, or how many are in each group. 8. So we have the number of groups times the size of the group. So knowing that information, I can draw an array. So what would my array look like if I know that 2 is the number of groups and 8 is the size of the group? What would that look like? If you said 2 rows of 8, you are correct. Let's draw that. And I always use circles just out of habit, okay? So let's draw one row of 8. Remember, rows are what? Horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's one row of 8. Let's make another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good, you guys. So this multiplication sentence is also this array. We have 2 rows and there are 8 on each row. Now, this last number means something too. What does that last number tell us? It tells us how many objects in all. When it comes to my array, it tells me how many circles I have in all. So what I like to do is I like to skip count the rows. And this is one of the largest numbers we've had so far. This time it's 8. But remember, when I told you when we're skip count, all we're doing is adding. And we can add 2 numbers together. So my first row has 8. Let's look at my second row. My second row I already know has 8 also. So if I add 8 plus 8, what do I get? 16. So I know that 2 times 8 equals 16. Number of groups times the size of the groups equals the total. Now you guys, let's draw a number bond for our equation. Now, when we're talking about number bonds for multiplication, they're a little different from number bonds from addition, okay? So when we draw a number bond for for multiplication, what we want to do is we want the number of groups first. So we have 2 groups, which means I'm going to have 2 stems, as I call them. So I have 2 groups, because that's the number of groups. And inside of them, I put the size of each group. So how many did we have in each group? We had 8. So when I look at this number bond, I see 2 groups of 8. And this top is our what? That's our total. 2 times 8 equals 16. So the top of our number bond should be 16, okay? Now, here's an analysis of our equation, okay? So let's remember, what was the number of groups? It was 2. The size of the group was what, guys? 8. And our last number was what? 16. Remember, I told you, these numbers mean something, okay? Each one of these numbers has a meaning. We're not just using random numbers. The 2 means the number of groups, the 8 is the size of the groups, and the 16 is the total, okay? So remember, we can also use this to translate into an array or a picture, you guys. If we were in class, boys and girls, we will work this first problem together. So let's try it here, all right? So let's start with number 1. There are 5 flowers in each bunch. How many flowers are in 4 bunches? So what we have is we have 4 groups, you guys. And what's the size of the group? It's 5 because there's 5 flowers in each bunch, okay? So we know that the number of groups is what, guys? We have 4 groups because we have 4 bunches, all right? What about the size of each group? What are they asking here? That's correct. They're wanting to know how many flowers are in each bunch. So what's the size of the group? It's 5, right? Can't we skip count this to find our total? Yes, we can because we've been counting by fives for a while. So let's do that. 5, 10, 15, 20. So remember I told you the number of groups times the size of each group equals the total. And what was our total? We just counted it. It was 20. So there are 20 flowers all together. I hope you enjoyed my lesson today. The only thing we wanted to learn today was the meaning of our factors. And remember what a factor is. A factor is just the numbers that we multiply together to get an answer. Remember, each one of those numbers has the meaning. What's our first number? It's the number of groups. What's the second number? Size of the group. And the last number is our total. I'll see you tomorrow for our next lesson. Bye bye.